Hello, everybody. I get to talk today about somebody that's a special hero of mine. And if I got one regret in my life, this guy came to Columbia, oh my God, from about 1982 when I first moved to Columbia to 1993. This guy came to Columbia just about every year. I'd be surprised if he missed a year for the Doolittle Raid reunion in Columbia. And I had so many chances to go to that. And I just thought these guys were going to live forever. And I just thought, do it next year. I'll do it next year. I'm too busy. And now I look up, they're all gone. And so when you got a chance to do something, do it, because you may not have that chance in the future. And the fellow I'm talking about is Jimmy Doolittle. Now, Jimmy Doolittle retired as a 3-star general. He had a very interesting career. He was, well, first off, he was born in 1896, died in 1993. But he, in World War I, he was a instructor pilot in Jennies. That's what he did. Taught guys how to fly. He wanted to go to the front lines in France, but somebody had to teach people how to fly, so everybody didn't get to go fly in France. So he didn't go, but he stayed here. And then after that, he was in the reserve during the 20s and 30s. And during that length of time, he won every Benedict Schneider, every award out there for racing and whatnot. And so he's a big hero of mine. He also received the Medal of Honor during the Doolittle Raid in April of 1942 when his guys took off and bombed Japan, which I'll talk about here in just a minute. He was the first guy to do an outside loop. He was the first guy to do an instrument landing where he never even saw the ground. All he did was take off under a hood, flew in a hood, came back, landed. This is in 1929, so I mean, I can't even believe that he did that. He served in the Air Force for 42 years. You rarely see anybody that stays in the service that long anymore, but he did. And let's see. One of the big things he did that affects all of us pilots today is he was very instrumental when he worked at Shell Oil for coming up with 100 low lead gas. At the time, gasoline, you could buy regular 87 gasoline octane for 16, 17 cents a gallon. This stuff came out, it was $25 a gallon. So of course all the pilots of the day said, forget it, I don't want nothing to do with that. But gradually they refined it, they made it better and better and better, and got cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. They got it down to where it was about the same price as 87 octane. So the Army Air Corps really used it, because it gave better performance to the engines. And I use it in all my airplanes to this day, except for the jet that I have. As I mentioned, he won the Bendix, the Thompson, and the Schneider racing for racing. He stopped racing in 1932. At that point, he was 36 years old. And they asked him why he was quitting, because he was so famous and so good at it. And he says, I have yet to hear anyone engaged in this work dying of old age. So, yeah, the day those planes were crashing, if you read his book, I Can Never Be So Lucky, you read where in the Jennies that he flew back in the teens and 20s, he crashed numerous times. And I have a Jenny, and I can see why. He's one of the best pilots that ever lived. And of course, I crashed my Jenny too. It's a hard airplane to fly, and they're very unreliable. So you just have to learn how to get it to the ground and minimize the damage whenever those things went out, because they were eaten up with drag. And so you didn't have much time, you didn't have much anything else. When those things went out, you had to get it on the ground. One of the interesting things I read, though, about his personal life is he had 2 sons, James Jr. and John. Both became military officers and pilots. James Jr. was an A-26 Invader pilot in the U.S. Army during World War II, and later a fighter pilot in the U.S. Air Force in the late 40s through the late 50s. He died by suicide in 1958, age 38 years old. At the time of his death, he was a major and commander of the 524th Fighter Squadron, pilot in the F-101 Voodoo. Of course, I've got about 50 hours in F-101s. It's a good airplane. But that was pretty interesting. He also received the Medal of Honor and the British Knighthood, which there's only been 2 people, him and Douglas MacArthur, that received both those honors. And of course, the Doolittle Raiders, you guys probably all know about that story. He took off the Hornet. And of course, one of the things they did before they bombed Japan is they trained here in Columbia and used Lake Murray. And in 2008, they came here. Of course, by then, Jimmy Doolittle had died, but the remaining guys came here for a reunion. And my wife went and picked them up and brought them out to Columbia Airport. And we took them in my Sturman, and we took them out to the lake. And one by one, I took them out there. Boy, those guys, even though they were in their late 80s, early 90s, they were great pilots. They could fly so well. And we were very honored. I got their pictures in my office. I'm very honored to be able to fly with them. But, you know, these all were young guys They were 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, and they all volunteered. And they had 80 crew total, and they had 16 airplanes, 5 on each airplane. And they took off the carrier, bombed Japan, did very minimum damage, but boy, it was a big lift for all the morale of all the folks here in the country. They all crashed. Nobody landed because they were very short on fuel. And 7 of them didn't make it of the 80. Some of them got either executed, killed in the crash landings or in the parachute jumps. But the rest of them, and what's very interesting, if you study those guys, most of them went on to become colonels, generals in the service and fought on in Africa and in Italy, and some of them in Normandy during World War II. So those guys were tough. They don't make them like that anymore. My hats are off to them. One of the things that's interesting, if you read about the Doolittle Raiders, is the Japs were so mad that this happened that they went through China just burning, killing, raping, pillaging, and plundering to kill over 10,000 Chinese because they were so upset that they helped them get back to the United States after they crash landed in China because they landed at night and they had no beacons and they didn't have enough gas to make it to any runways. So they were so mad that they were able to get back here that they executed and killed tens of thousands of Chinese. So until next time, you guys enjoy Mother's Day. See you later.